As you know, inflation has been on the rise for the past year, and there's no sign of it slowing down. This is causing a lot of anxiety for people, especially those who are already struggling to make ends meet. But what if I told you that the worst is yet to come? In this video, I'm going to share with you some expert predictions about what to expect in 2024, and let me tell you, it's not a pretty picture. According to a recent study by the Pew Research Center, 72% of Americans are worried about the rising cost of living, and there's good reason to be worried. The price of everything from groceries to gas to housing has been skyrocketing, and there's no end in sight. Some experts are predicting that inflation could reach as high as 10% in 2024. That means that the things you buy today will cost 10% more next year. For example, if a gallon of gas costs $5 today, it will cost $5.50 next year. If a loaf of bread costs $2 today, it will cost $2.20 next year. And it's not just the everyday things that are getting more expensive. The cost of education, healthcare, and housing is also on the rise. The Consumer Price Index, CPI, declined in January for the 7th consecutive month, although the reading was marginally higher than anticipated. This suggests that the Federal Reserve's targeted route to reduce inflation may not be straightforward. The Fed is attempting to interpret conflicting clues from the economy, such as the reason inflation is down in the face of an exceptionally robust labor market. To identify the remaining factors contributing to the strong growth in prices, economists have been concentrating on smaller segments of inflation, such as those in the service sector that do not include housing. However, for average Americans, the effects of inflation are still most felt in the headline categories of food and energy, which are both outperforming the core CPI and causing consumers to reevaluate what they can buy. According to Tuesday's CPI data, the cost of food is 10.1% higher nationwide than it was a year ago. This contrasts with a 5.6% increase in core inflation, which analysts believe is a stronger indicator of longer-term inflation as it does not include the food and energy categories. The Labor Department's Food at Home category shows that grocery prices have increased by 11.3% from the previous year. Restaurant and cafeteria meals are included in the food away from home category, which is growing by 8.2% a year. Brooke claimed that rising costs have made her feel more anxious and that she has had to cut back on her social activities in order to save money. The Fed fights back. After initially raising interest rates to 0% in the wake of the coronavirus outbreak, the Fed has been hiking rates for almost a year in an effort to drive down prices. Currently, they are between 4.5 and 4.75%. Increased interest rates increase the cost of doing business within the economy, which reduces demand for products and services and ultimately drives down prices. The drawback of higher rates is that they can cause the economy to enter a recession by slowing down economic activity. The Fed's most recent summary of economic estimates, which was published in December, places the unemployment rate for 2023 at 4.6%, more than a full percentage point higher than it is now. Many economists believe that a recession will happen at some point this year. The job market is defying gravity. The pressure from the Fed's rate hikes hasn't affected the employment market yet. The U.S. economy created an astounding 517,000 new jobs in January, bringing the unemployment rate down to 3.4%, the lowest since 1969. With over 2 job openings in the market for every job seeker, this translates into good conditions for workers. According to exit polling, the economy and inflation were the top concerns for American voters in the 2022 midterm elections. President Biden has stated that his administration's primary economic objective is driving down prices, a point he reiterated on Tuesday following the announcement of the CPI. In line with the president's aggressive plans to address other problematic expenses and in anticipation of future rate hikes by the Fed, Biden also stated that there was more work to do to cut price levels. This is putting a major strain on household budgets. Many people are having to cut back on spending, and some are even having trouble making ends meet. But the worst is yet to come. Experts are predicting that the rising cost of living will lead to a number of social and economic problems. These problems could include increased poverty, homelessness, food insecurity, social unrest. These are just some of the potential consequences of the rising cost of living, and they are just the tip of the iceberg. If we don't take action to address this problem, the situation is only going to get worse. So, what can we do about it? There are a number of things that we can do as individuals to help mitigate the effects of inflation. These include creating a budget and sticking to it, cutting back on unnecessary expenses, finding ways to earn extra income. But we also need to take action as a society. We need to demand that our elected officials take action to address the rising cost of living. We need to support policies that will help to make things more affordable for everyone. And we need to continue to have this conversation about the rising cost of living. We need to raise awareness of this issue and make sure that it is a top priority for our policymakers. The rising cost of living is a serious problem, but is not one that we are powerless against. We can take action to protect ourselves and our families, and we can work together to create a more just and equitable society. Thank you for watching. Disclaimer: this video is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. Please consult with a qualified financial advisor before making any financial decisions.